not by much. Along one wall ran a narrow built-in shelf holding a row of sealed tin canisters, a glass oil lamp with a reservoir still half full, and a stack of flat wooden boxes. The lamp was the source of the amber glow. It was lit. She turned in a slow circle. There was a cot frame bolted to one wall, bare of any mattress, but fitted with wooden slats that were intact. There was a small iron stove with a pipe disappearing upward through the timbered ceiling. There was a wooden chest at the foot of the cot, latched but not padlocked. There was a shelf of books with their spines turned toward the wall. There was a folded wool blanket on the shelf above the cot, perfectly placed, as if someone had set it there this morning. And there was no dust, or rather, very little. Certainly not the kind of accumulated drift she would have expected from a space that looked this old and this hidden. Someone had been here recently enough to matter. She stood in the middle of the room and listened to the rain she could no longer hear. The silence was the strangest part. Not the emptiness of a sealed room, but the deliberate quiet of a space that had been arranged to muffle the world above. She pressed one hand against the timber wall and felt nothing. No vibration from the rain, no tremor from the bridge decking, no trace of the wind that had been cutting through her coat only minutes ago. The insulation was not accidental. Someone had thought carefully about this. She moved toward the lamp first, because the lamp demanded explanation above everything else. Its reservoir was half full of clear oil, and its wick was trimmed neatly, the way a careful person trims a wick, not burned down to a frayed stub, but cut clean and centered. She cupped her hand near the glass chimney without touching it and felt genuine warmth. This lamp had been lit within the last several hours. She stepped back and held that thought the way you hold something fragile. Within the last several hours. She looked at the hatch above her. She had dropped it shut when she climbed down, partly from instinct and partly because the train had made every careful decision feel impossible. It was closed now, and she heard nothing through it. No engine, no metal shriek, no rain. Whatever had passed above her had passed completely. She let herself breathe. The wooden chest at the foot of the cot drew her next. She crouched in front of it and ran her fingers along the latch. Simple, hinged, not locked. She did not open it immediately. She studied the wood grain of the lid, the faint oil stain on the latch from repeated handling. The chest had been used often enough to leave that mark. She pressed her thumb lightly to the latch. Then she let it go. Not yet. She stood and turned to the shelf of books instead. There were 9 of them. She tilted the first spine toward the lamplight and read the title. A field guide to alpine plants, the kind sold in sporting goods stores or county extension offices, the kind a practical person keeps for practical reasons. The second was a manual for small engine repair. The third was a water-stained paperback novel with no author visible on the spine. The rest were similar. Reference books, practical manuals, one slim journal wedged between 2 thicker volumes. She pulled the journal out carefully. It was bound in dark green cloth, the cover slightly warped from humidity. There was no name written on the outside. She opened it to the first page and held it toward the lamp. The handwriting was small and even and written in pencil, the kind of handwriting that belongs to someone who writes frequently enough to have developed a method. The first line read, Bridge 14, elevation 4,190. Arrived spring. Below, elevation 4,190. Arrived spring. Below that, the date, but the year had been deliberately smudged, not by accident, by pressure, by the blunt end of the same pencil. Someone had not wanted to be placed in time. She turned to the second page and began to read. The second page began without ceremony, the way a person writes when they are not performing for an audience, but simply recording what they know. The structure was already here when I found it, older than I expected. The timber framing is solid. Whoever built this knew what they were doing. The hatch hardware is original, hand-forged, not catalog. I think this place was meant to last. She read slowly, turning pages with deliberate care, afraid of tearing something that had already survived longer than it had any right to. The entries were not dated by